Good day, my dear students. I prepared this video lecture again to ensure you stay on track with our lessons despite our busy schedule for the upcoming intramurals. You may watch it at your most convenient time, okay? So today, I will be discussing gene therapy. I encourage you to give your full attention to this topic and take down important notes as you watch, okay? So now let's talk about what is gene therapy. So here are the contents of our topic. So later on, we are going to elucidate what is gene therapy, history, types, vectors, gene delivery, success cases, no, the advantages and disadvantages of gene therapy. Now let us know and understand what is gene therapy. Ang gene therapy class ay isang paraan ng paggamot sa mga sakit sa pamamagitan ng pagbabago o pag-aayos ng mga gene ng isang tao. Sa madaling salita class, ginagamit ito upang una, baguhin ang paraan ng pag-andar o pag-express ng isang gene. Kung ang isang gene class ay gumagana ng mali o hindi sapat, maaari itong ayusin o dagdagan upang maging normal ang gawain nito. Pangalawa, upang itama ang abnormal o sirang gene. Kung ang problema ay nasa mismong istruktura ng gene, maaaring palitan o kumpunuhin kumbaga para maibalik sa maayos ang tungkulin nito. Halimbawa, kung ang isang tao ay may sakit na dulot ng sirang gene tulad ng ilang uri ng immune deficiency or the hemophilia, no? Pwedeng gamitin ang gene therapy class upang maipasok ang malusog na kopya ng gene sa ating cells or sa cells ng isang pasyente. Sa ganitong paraan class, nakakatulong ito upang bumuti ang kalagayan o gumaling ang sakit. Gene therapy can be accomplished by, first, replacing a faulty gene. The mutated or damaged gene that causes disease is replaced with a healthy copy, allowing the body to restore its normal function. Second one, inactivating or knocking out a malfunctioning gene. If a gene is not working or working improperly, I should say, and harming the body, it can be switched off or deactivated so it no longer cause problems. Third one is introducing a new gene. A new gene can be inserted into the body to help fight a disease or support cells so they can be function properly. Now let's talk about first the history of gene therapy. During the 1960s, scientists first introduced the idea of gene therapy. They began to explore the possibility of correcting diseases at their genetic source instead of only treating symptoms. This period laid the groundwork for studying how genes could be modified or replaced to treat inherited disorders. Then, by 1972, Friedman and Roblin's landmark paper, they are the scientists, published an article in the journal Science entitled Gene Therapy for Human Genetic Disease. This paper, class, officially proposed gene therapy as a scientific approach for treating human genetic conditions. It outlined how introducing a healthy genes into a person's cells could potentially cure genetic disorders. Then, by 1984, development of retrovirus vector system. So that is a tool that could efficiently insert foreign or healthy genes into the chromosomes of mammalian cells. The retrovirus became important carriers or vectors for delivering a new genetic material into cells. This breakthrough class made gene therapy more practical because it provided a reliable way to transfer therapeutic genes into a patient's DNA. Then, on September 14, 1990, the National Institutes of Health or NIH carried out the first officially approved gene therapy procedure in the United States. The project was led by Dr. William French Anderson, often called the father of gene therapy. Again, Dr. William French Anderson, often called the father of gene therapy. So the patient was Ashante De Silva, a 4-year-old girl born with ADA SCID, or adenosine deaminase severe combined immunodeficiency. Okay? That is a rare and life-threatening disorder in which the immune system cannot fight infections. So, how the treatment worked? Okay. So, doctors took Ashanti's white blood cells, inserted a normal ADA gene into them using especially preferred virus or a vector, and then returned to the corrected cells to her bloodstreams. Okay? So this gave her body the instructions needed to produce the ADA enzyme, which strengthened her immune system. Okay? So this treatment class marked the beginning of practical gene therapy in humans. It showed that adding a healthy gene to a patient's cells could improve an otherwise untreatable genetic disease. Although Ashante still required additional care, her immune function improved, proving the promise of gene therapy. Then, in 1992, the first use of hematopoietic stem cells in gene therapy. Dr. Claudio Bordignon and his team performed the first procedure using hematopoietic stem cells as carriers to deliver therapeutic genes. This opened the possibility of correcting hereditary diseases by altering a patient's stem cells, which can produce healthy blood cells for life. Then, Andrew Gubea was born in 1993 with severe combined immunodeficiency, or SID, was detected through prenatal screening. Right after birth, the blood was collected from the placenta and umbilical cord to obtain stem cells. So a scientist took the ADA gene, or the adenosine deaminase, and inserted it into a retrovirus. Then mixed the retrovirus with Andrew's stem cells so the virus could deliver the healthy ADA gene into the stem cell chromosomes. Then after that, injected this corrected stem cells into Andrew's bloodstream. So weekly injections of the ADA enzyme supported his immune system while the therapy worked. For 4 years, class, Andrew's T cells produced the ADA enzyme. Then after that, additional treatment was needed. So showing progress but also the limits of early gene therapy. Then 1999, Gelsinger, an 18-year-old with ornithine transcarbamylase, or OTC, a rare X-linked liver disorder, volunteered for a gene therapy clinical trial, at the University of Pennsylvania. The experimental therapy attempted to insert a normal OTC gene into his liver cells to help them break down ammonia. Okay, class, sadly, Gelsinger suffered a severe immune reaction to the viral vector used in the treatment and died on September 17, 1999. So his death, class, led to stricter safety standards and more rigorous oversight of gene therapy research. And in 2003, that is the first gene transfer into the brain, a research team achieved the first successful insertion of genes directly into the human brain. So they use liposomes, that is a tiny fat-like particles, as delivery vehicles. Unlike viral vectors, class, liposomes are small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, which normally prevents many substances from entering the brain. So this breakthrough, class, opened possibilities for treating neurological conditions such as Parkinson's and other brain disorders, of course, through gene therapy. Then, 2006, that is the treatment for X-linked chronic granulomatous disease, or XCGD. So, scientists reported the first successful use of gene therapy to treat 2 adult patients with X-linked chronic granulomatous disease. That is a rare disorder where white blood cells can't effectively fight infection. By correcting the defective gene in the patient's stem cells, their immune systems were strengthened, allowing them to better resist bacterial and fungal infections. So these results showed gene therapy's potential not only in children but also in adults with inherited diseases. Then, in 2007, that is the first trial for inherited retinal disease. No, researchers launched the first clinical trial of gene therapy for an inherited retinal disease such as Leber's congenital amaurosis. No, that is the therapy, or that therapy aimed to restore or improve vision by delivering a healthy gene to light-sensitive cells in the retina. So, this marked the beginning of gene therapy for eye disorders, paving the way for treatments that could prevent or reverse blindness caused by faulty genes. In 2010, an 18-year-old patient in France with beta thalassemia major, that is a severe blood disorder, class, that reduces hemoglobin production. So it became the first person successfully treated with gene therapy for this condition. So doctors use lentiviral vector to insert a healthy beta globin gene into the patient's own stem cells, which were then returned to his body. After treatment, he no longer needed regular blood transfusions. No. Then, in 2011, the medical community widely acknowledged that gene therapy could potentially cure HIV. So, thanks to the case of Timothy Ray Brown, also known as the Berlin patient. In 2008, Dr. Guerrero treated Brown's leukemia with a bone marrow transplant from a donor who had a rare HIV-resistant mutation. After the transplant, HIV became undetectable in Brown's body without medication. So that is the first documented case of a functional cure linked to genetic therapy. Then, between 2011 and 2015, gene therapy research expanded dramatically. So, new viral vectors became safer and more efficient. Clinical trials showed promising results for conditions like hemophilia, retinal blindness, immune deficiencies, and certain cancers. So, these years solidified gene therapy as a mainstream area of medical research, with the list of successfully treated diseases is steadily increasing. Okay, we've finished the history of gene therapy. Now let's move on to the types of gene therapy. So there are two, The first one is the somatic gene therapy, and the second one is the germline gene therapy. Somatic cell gene therapy, that is a therapeutic genes transferred into the somatic cells. For germline gene therapy, that is a therapeutic genes transferred into the germ cells. So in somatic cell, introduction of genes into bone marrow cells, blood cells, skin cells, and etc. While for germline, so the genes introduced into eggs and sperms. So the somatic cell class will not be inherited later generations. While for germline, it is heritable and passed on to later generations. So one way, germline therapy may be done to ensure a man with genetic disease doesn't pass it to his child. So the first step, doctors remove the man's sperm producing cells which contain a defective gene. And second one, a healthy gene is added to each cell to replace the defective ones. Then, the third one, or the next step, the cells are put into mouse testes. And they mature inside the mouse and start producing healthy human sperm. And those sperm class, once tested, are used to fertilize a woman's egg in a laboratory dish. Then after that, the resulting embryos are placed into a woman's womb, and she gives birth to a child whose genes are free from the father's disease. So that is the so-called cleaning genes. No, again, that is a one-way germline therapy, no, to ensure a man with genetic disease doesn't pass it to his child. Okay, class, there are two types of somatic cell gene therapy. So the first one is the ex vivo gene therapy. So in this method, class, cells are removed from the patient's body and treated in a laboratory. So scientists insert or correct the desired gene outside the body. Again, outside the body. Then, the modified cells are then transplanted back into the patient so they can perform their new function. Example, treating immune deficiencies by taking bone marrow cells, inserting a healthy gene, and returning the corrected cells. Again, ex vivo, so means, take note for you to be able to understand it well. Ex vivo means outside the living body. Okay? So, the second one is in vivo gene therapy. So in this approach, no, the therapeutic gene is delivered directly into the patient's body, targeting specific tissues or organs. The genes, no, enter the cells inside the body. So inside the body. So no cell removal is needed. Okay? Example, injecting a viral vector carrying a healthy gene into the eye to treat inherited retinal disorders. Okay? So take note, no, for you to be able to understand it well again. In vivo means inside the body. So the key difference there is ex vivo therapy modifies cells in a lab before returning them to the patient, while in vivo therapy delivers the gene directly into the cells inside the body. Example of ex vivo gene therapy. So in 1990, doctors at the National Institutes of Health treated Ashante De Silva, no, a 4-year-old girl with severe combined immunodeficiency caused by a defect in the ADA or adenosine deaminase gene. So her body couldn't make the ADA enzyme, allowing toxic substances to destroy her T lymphocytes, leaving her with no immune defense. So doctors removed some of her white blood cells, then inserted a healthy ADA gene into them, no, in the lab. So and then returned the corrected cells to her bloodstream. So the cells began producing the ADA enzyme, strengthening her immunity. So this was the first successful ex vivo gene therapy, no, proving that the genetic disorders could be treated by modifying a patient's cell outside the body. Then, in vivo gene therapy, no, it is often the only possible option when the target cells cannot be removed, cultured in a lab, and reimplanted in large enough numbers. So this is especially, no, true for delicate or hard to access tissues such as brain cells, lung cells, no, or certain muscle cells. In vivo delivery, it is necessary, no, when cultured cells would not survive or function properly if reintroduced to the body. So doctors inject or infuse a vector, no, directly into the organ or bloodstream. So the vector inserts the new gene into the cells inside the body where it begins to produce the desired protein or enzyme. Example of in vivo gene therapy. So in patients with cystic fibrosis, a protein called cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator or CFTR is absent due to a gene defect. So in the absence of CFTR, no, chloride ions concentrate within the cells and it draws water from surrounding. So this leads, no, to the accumulation of sticky mucus in our respiratory tract and lungs. So it is treated, no, by in vivo replacement or defective gene by adenovirus vector. Now we have the so-called monogenic diseases. So monogenic diseases class are disorders that result from a mutation or defect in a single gene. Since this defective gene is present in all the cells of the body, it can affect many organs and functions. Gene therapy, offers hope for these diseases because introducing a healthy copy of the faulty gene can correct the problem at its source. For example, hemophilia. Hemophilia is a bleeding disorder caused by a mutations in the gene responsible for making clotting factors. Without these clotting factors, a person's blood cannot clot properly, leading to excessive or dangerous bleeding. Through gene therapy, class, a healthy gene can be delivered to the liver so the body can produce the missing clotting factors and prevent bleeding episodes. So in short, monogenic diseases are some of the best candidates for gene therapy because correcting just one faulty gene can significantly improve or even cure the conditions. If there is monogenic diseases class, there is so-called multifactorial diseases. Multifactorial diseases class are illnesses that happen because of a combination of many factors, usually mutations in several genes together with environmental influences such as lifestyle, diet, or exposure to toxins. Unlike monogenic disorders class, there isn't just one defective gene that can be replaced. Rather, several genes interact with external factors to trigger the disease. So examples of multifactorial diseases are, first, diabetes mellitus. This is caused by changes in multiple genes plus factors like diet, weight, and physical activity. And it includes here the hypertension or high blood pressure that is influenced by genes that affect blood vessels and salt balance, as well as stress, diet, and lack of exercise. Next, coronary heart disease. Results from genetic tendencies like high cholesterol. This combined with lifestyle choices such as smoking or fatty diets. And of course, the asthma. This triggered by genetic sensitivity of the airways along with allergens, pollution, or respiratory infections. And also some cancers like breast cancer and colon cancer. So it can involve inherited gene variants, of course, plus the environmental or lifestyle risks. Because of the multifactorial diseases class, which is involved many genes and environmental factors, they are more complex to treat with gene therapy compared to monogenic disorder. So preventive measures class like healthy lifestyle choices, early screening, and controlling risk factors often play a big role in management. So now let's move on to vectors in gene therapy. So I know some of you are asking or let's say thinking what a vector is. In gene therapy, a vector is a carrier or delivery tool used to transport the desired gene into a patient's target cell. Because naked DNA cannot easily enter cells on its own, scientists use vectors to safely and effectively deliver genetic material when it's needed. Okay? So there are two main classes of vectors. The first one is the viral vectors and the non-viral vectors. Now, I will discuss first what is viral vectors in gene therapy. So, viruses class are naturally good at delivering genetic material into cells as part of their life cycle. So, in gene therapy class, scientists take advantage of this ability by removing the virus's own harmful DNA and replacing it with therapeutic gene that needs to be delivered. So, this modified viruses class act as vehicles or vectors carrying the desired DNA into a patient's target cells. So to make sure they are safe class, the viruses are carefully altered so they cannot reproduce or cause disease. However class, some risks remain, such as possible immune reactions or unintended effects on the patient's genome. So every treatment class, every treatment is carefully tested and of course monitored. So as you can see here, class, no, in our illustration, so cell with original genes, and then vectors inserts new gene, no, into cell, and then new gene in the cell along with original cells. So there are types of viral vectors, class, no. First we have retrovirus, adenovirus, adeno-associated virus, and herpes simplex virus. So those types of viral vectors, class, no, I will discuss, no, one by one. Now let's start with retrovirus vector system. Retroviruses, class, are a type of virus that scientists modify and use as vectors in gene therapy. A recombinant retrovirus class is a retrovirus whose harmful genes have been removed and replaced with the therapeutic DNA. So, retroviruses have the special ability to insert their genetic material directly into the DNA of the target cell. This allows the therapeutic gene to become a permanent part of the cell's genome, so it can be copied every time the cells divides. Then, no, they can carry a therapeutic DNA fragment up to about 3.4 kilobases, no, or kb in size. So, retroviruses, class, mainly infect actively dividing cells, no, which make them useful for treatments involving bone marrow cells, blood cells, or other tissues where cells are multiplying. And take note, class, no, while retroviruses are effective for a stable gene delivery, they cannot be used for non-dividing cells like most brain cells. So, safety measures are indeed essential as integration into the host genome could occasionally disrupt important genes. There is a subclass of retroviruses called lentiviruses. No, these have been adapted as vectors for gene therapy. Like other retroviruses, their genetic material in the form of RNA. So when a lentiviruses class, no, enters the target cell, an enzyme called reverse transcriptase converts the RNA into DNA. So this DNA class, no, is then inserted into the cell's genome at random positions by another enzyme called integrase. So, lentiviruses class share the same basic structure as retroviruses but have special properties that make them more versatile. So after integration, class, the therapeutic gene becomes part of the cell's DNA, allowing long-term expression as the cells divides. Unlike traditional retroviruses class, lentiviruses can deliver genes into both dividing and non-dividing cells, making them useful for tissues such as the brain, liver, and muscle. And take note, class, no, lentiviral vectors are commonly derived from the human immunodeficiency virus or HIV, but they are engineered to remove all harmful genes so they cannot cause disease. They are especially valuable for therapies that need to correct or add genes in cells that do not actively divide. The second types of viral vectors is adenovirus vector system. Adenoviruses class are another group of viruses widely used as vectors in gene therapy. They are engineered so that their own disease-causing genes are removed and replaced with a therapeutic gene. So the DNA class carried by adenoviruses, no, remains separate from the host cell's DNA because it does not integrate into the genome. It is not passed on when the cell divides. This means, class, the treatment effect may be temporary and repeated doses can be sometimes be needed. Okay? So adenoviruses class can deliver genes to both dividing and non-dividing cells, which makes them very versatile. So since humans are naturally exposed to adenoviruses, many people have neutralizing antibodies that can recognize and inactivate the viral vector. This immune reaction class is one of the challenges in using adenoviruses for long-term therapy. And take note, class, no, Adenovirus vectors are especially useful when you need strong short-term expression of a gene, such as in cancer therapy or vaccines. However, class, no, because the therapeutic DNA doesn't become part of the cell's genome, the effect may be not last in rapidly dividing tissue. Next is the adeno-associated virus or AAV vector. The adeno-associated virus or AAV is a small virus that scientists use as a safe and efficient vector in gene therapy. It has become one of the most popular tools for delivering therapeutic genes because of its low risk of causing disease. AAV is a naturally occurring virus that infects human and some other primates. So its genome is made of single-stranded DNA. When AAV enters the host cell, it is converted into double-stranded DNA before it begins working. AAV class can insert its DNA into the host cell's chromosomes, allowing long-term expression of the therapeutic gene. However, class, most engineered AAV vectors remain outside the chromosomes, reducing the risk of disrupting important genes. The AAV class is not known to cause disease in humans, and it triggers only a very mild immune response, making it one of the safest viral vectors. So it can be delivered, genes to both dividing and non-dividing cells, which makes it suitable for tissues like the liver, muscles, and eyes. And take note, class, because of its safety and stability, AAV is often used for treating inherited disorders that require long-term gene expression, such as the spinal muscular atrophy and certain retinal diseases. And the last types of viral vectors class is herpes simplex virus or HSV vector. Okay, so the herpes simplex virus class is a human virus that scientists have adapted as a vector for gene therapy, especially when targeting the nervous system. HSV class has a natural tendency to infect nerve cells or the neurons, which makes it particularly useful for delivering genes to the brain and spinal cord. Because herpes simplex virus class is naturally drawn to the nervous system, it is being actively studied for gene transfer in neurological disorders. So this herpes simplex virus can carry large pieces of therapeutic DNA, which is helpful for treating diseases that require big or small genes. To make the herpes simplex virus safe, its disease-causing genes are removed so it cannot replicate or cause infections. And take note, the herpes simplex virus are promising tools, for treating conditions like brain tumors, chronic pain, and some what do we call this one? And some neurodegenerative diseases, where efficient delivery of genes into nerve cells is essential. So there are advantages and disadvantages of viral vectors. So for the advantages, it target the specific type of cells. What else? They are very good at targeting and entering cells, and they can be modified so that they can replicate and destroy cells. While for the disadvantages, they can cause immune responses in patients, and of course, they can carry a limited amount of genetic material. Therefore, class, some genes may be too big to fit into some viruses. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of viral vectors. Now let's talk about the non-viral vector system. So number one, the pure DNA construct. A pure DNA construct is one of the simplest tools used to deliver therapeutic genes without using any virus as a carrier. A prepared segment of DNA is introduced directly into the target tissue using physical or chemical methods such as microinjection, electroporation, or gene gun. Because cells don't easily take up and express naked DNA, the success rate is usually low compete with viral vectors. To maintain the effect, large amount of DNA often have to be injected periodically since the construct does not integrate into the genome or replicate inside cells. So take note class, pure DNA constructs are safer than viral vectors because they don't carry infectious material. However, their limited efficiency means they are best suited for applications where short-term gene expression is acceptable or where safety is the highest priority. And number two, the DNA molecular conjugates. The DNA molecular conjugates are synthetic complex, no, designed to help therapeutic DNA enter target cells more efficiently. So a common example is poly-L-lysine, a positively charged molecule that can bind to DNA and receptors on the surface of specific cells. The therapeutic DNA is chemically linked to or mixed with the carrier, creating a DNA conjugate complex. So this approach class protects the DNA from being destroyed inside the cell's lysosomes. And as a result, more of the DNA can reach the nucleus where it can be expressed. And take note class, DNA molecular conjugates increase the efficiency of non-viral gene transfer while avoiding the safety concerns associated with viruses. However, they are generally less efficient than viral vectors and many require optimization for each target tissue. Next, number three is the lipoplexes. Lipoplexes are complexes made of therapeutic DNA and special synthetic lipids. The DNA construct is surrounded by an artificial lipid layer, which helps in cross the cell membrane. After entering the cell class, some of the DNA can escape into the cytoplasm, but much of it may be destroyed inside lysosomes. So efficiency is often low. Lipoplexes class are relatively easy and inexpensive to prepare and don't carry the risk of viral infection, making them useful for research or for treatments that don't require very high gene transfer efficiency. Okay, so that is lipoflexis. How about the last one, which is the human artificial chromosome or HAC? A human artificial chromosome is a specially engineered chromosome that behaves like a natural human chromosomes. The human artificial chromosome class can carry large segments of DNA, including one or more therapeutic genes, regulatory sequences, or even entire clusters. So the advantage of human artificial chromosome is separately from the cell normal chromosomes, this human artificial chromosome don't disrupt important genes when inserted and can provide long-term stable expression of therapeutic genes. Then this human artificial chromosome class is still under development, but it shows promise for treating complex disorders that require delivery of large or multiple genes. Now let's move on to the methods of gene delivery. So the first one is the gene gun. The gene gun, also called as the biolistic particle delivery system, it is a physical method used to deliver therapeutic DNA directly into cells. In this technique class, very small particles of gold or tungsten are first coated with the desired DNA. These particles class are then placed inside a special device called a gene gun. Using a burst of high-pressure gas, usually helium, the device shoots the DNA-coated particles at high speed into the target tissue. When the particles penetrate the cell membrane, they release the DNA into the cytoplasm or nucleus where it can start working. The gene gun class is especially helpful for introducing genes into plant cells, skin cells, or tumor tissues because it can target large surface area quickly. So since the DNA delivered by this method usually does not integrate into the cell's chromosomes. The gene's effect is often temporary, but it is effective, no? That is effective option when short-term or local gene expression is needed. Another advantage is that because no viruses are used, there is a little risk of introducing infectious material. The second one is the microinjection. Microinjection, no, it is a process of using a glass micropipette to insert microscopic substances into a single living cell. Basically, no, it normally performed under a specialized optical microscope setup and called a micromanipulator. Now let's move on to the chemical method. So first, using detergent mixture. So certain charged, no, chemical compounds like calcium phosphates are mixed with functional cDNA of desired function. Then the mixture is introduced near the vicinity of recipient cells. So the chemicals, no, disturbs the cell membrane, then widens the pore size and allows cDNA to pass through the cell. Next is the liposuction. Liposuction is a laboratory technique used to deliver genetic material such as DNA or RNA into cells with the help of structures called liposomes. Liposomes are artificial phospholipid vesicles, no, that is tiny bubbles made from the same type of molecules that form cell membranes. In this method class, no, the therapeutic DNA is first mixed with the liposomes because liposomes can easily merge with the cell's other membrane. They act as a carriers, bringing the DNA inside the cell. Once inside, the DNA is released so it can reach the nucleus and begin working. Liposuction class, no, is a popular non-viral gene delivery method because it is relatively simple, efficient for many cell types, and avoids the safety concerns linked to viral vectors. However, class, its effectiveness can vary depending on the cell type, and sometimes the gene expression is produces or and sometimes I should say the gene expression it produces is only temporary. Okay? Now let's know the success cases of gene therapy. Gene therapy class cures blindness, no? So gene therapy class has brought a new hope to people with certain inherited forms of blindness, such as Leber's congenital amaurosis, no, or LCA. So the LCA is a rare eye disorder caused by a defect in a gene called RPE65, no. This gene no class is responsible for producing a protein essential for healthy retinal cells, which help detect light and send visual signals to the brain. So children with LCA are usually born with poor vision or develop it within the first few months of life. As they grow, no, their eyesight gradually worsens, and in severe cases, they may become completely blind. So through gene therapy class, scientists deliver a healthy copy of the RPE65 gene directly into retina using a specially engineered viral vector. Once inside, no, the cells, the new gene allows them to produce the missing protein, helping restore their ability to respond to light. So how it works? So it uses harmless viruses. What else? Enable access to the cells beneath the retina of patients, and of course by using a very fine needle. So it's safe, no, in an extremely fragile tissue and can improve vision. Gene therapy class has shown promising results in reducing the symptoms of Parkinson's disease, a disorder that affects movement and coordination. Patients with Parkinson's class often experience tremors, muscle rigidity, and problems with motor skills which can make daily activities difficult. So in this approach class, doctors use a harmless inactive virus called AAV2 or adeno-associated virus type 2 as a vector. So the virus is engineered to carry a therapeutic gene that helps restore the balance of brain chemicals involved in movement. The procedure is done under the local anesthesia. The AAV2, no, vectors is carefully delivered into specific areas of the brain, where it inserts the healthy gene into nerve cells. Once inside, the gene helps the cell produce proteins that improve communication between brain regions, reducing tremors and stiffness. So studies class have shown that this technique can significantly lessen the severity of Parkinson's symptoms, offering a new hope for patients who do not respond well to standard medications. So now what are the advantages of gene therapy? So gene therapy class has the potential to eliminate and prevent hereditary diseases like cystic fibrosis. And of course, it is possible to cure for heart disease, AIDS, and cancer. And of course, it gives someone born with a genetic disease a chance to life. And it can be used to eradicate diseases from the future generations. And for the disadvantages, long-lasting therapy is not achieved by gene therapy. Due to rapid dividing of cells, benefits of gene therapy is short-lived. Then, immune response to the transferred gene stimulates a potential risk to gene therapy. And disorders caused by defects in multiple genes cannot be treated, cannot be treated effectively using gene therapy. And the viruses used as vectors for gene transfer may cause toxicity, immune responses, and inflammatory reactions in the host. While gene therapy offers remarkable potential to treat or even cure many diseases, it also raises important ethical questions that society must carefully consider. So first, who will be able to receive these treatments? So because gene therapy can be expensive, there are concerns that only wealthy individuals or countries may benefit, increasing inequality in healthcare. Second, some people wonder, whether altering human genes interferes with God's plan or natural order of life. Others believe that if science can relieve suffering, it has a moral duty to do so, but only with respect for human dignity. Then, third, gene therapy is designed to correct serious diseases, but also it used to enhance basic human traits such as height, intelligence, or athletic ability. So many ethnicists argue that using the technology for non-medical or just for improvements could create unfair advantages or pressure people to meet new social standards. And another debate concerns whether it is acceptable to use gene therapy at the prenatal stage or before birth or on germline cells like sperms, eggs, and embryos. So, changes made at this level would heritable, okay? So, passing on the future generations. Supporters see this as a way to eliminate devastating inherited disorders, while critics worry about unknown risks and the possibility of designing or customizing babies. So, the ethical discussions remind us class, that scientific progress must go hand in hand with responsibility, transparency, and respect for human rights, ensuring that the gene therapy is used for the benefit of all and not to create new forms of inequality or harm. So now what would be the implications of gene therapy to education? The implications of gene therapy to education: first, curriculum development. Second, hands-on learning and laboratory training. Third, interdisciplinary approach. And fourth, health and science literacy for all. Fifth, ethical and social awareness. And sixth, career opportunities and workforce development. And the last one is encouraging research and innovation. For conclusion, gene therapy is, in theory, a permanent solution for many genetic diseases because it addresses the problem at its source, so the genes themselves. However, it still faces several complexities, including technical challenges, safety concerns, and ethical questions. At its current stage, gene therapy remains inaccessible to most people because of its very high cost and limited availability. So despite this challenge, these barriers, class, no, research is advancing rapidly. A major breakthrough could emerge at any time. So it is possible that one day gene therapy will become a standard treatment for a wide range, no, of conditions. Ultimately, gene therapy holds the potential to revolutionize the practice of medicine, offering hope for cures rather than merely managing symptoms. That concludes our discussion for today. I hope you found this session insightful and that it has deepened your understanding of gene therapy and its potential to transform modern medicine. Goodbye, everyone, and have a great day.